Welcome to Triple H, Hamilton Happy Hour, where we talk about pianos, talk about music, and everything else in between. Hey everybody, welcome to Triple H, Hamilton Happy Hour. We are here tonight and we have a distinguished guest with us, Copeland Davis. I would like to introduce him. Copeland, thank you for coming on board. We've been talking about you coming on board, and dude, we're super excited to have you here.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. We also have Mike Hayden again and Mike Boland.
Hey everybody.
Hey everybody.
And we have Ian here also.
Hey everybody.
So this podcast is really about Copeland because we want to hear stories, man. We want to hear. I'm sure you got a bunch of them, and we also want to know about upcoming venues that you're going to be playing at. We know you play at Cafe Centro, and that's a really, really great restaurant. Anybody who wants to have a really good time and have really good food, Cafe Centro in West Palm Beach is a great place to go to. Copeland, you want to talk about some stories, or do you want to talk about what you have coming up? The floor is yours.
Well, what do you want to talk about? You're the moderator.
Now you're putting me on the spot. So you're playing tomorrow night at Cafe Centro.
Yeah.
Right? What nights do you play there?
Well, Thursdays and Fridays and Saturdays.
Okay.
This is my fourth year. You know, what started out to be a two-night thing with just piano solos now turned into I got my own room. You know that.
Yeah.
So we had to buy a second piano.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is great. We've been doing this for quite a while. Sal is the owner. He and his wife Joyce, they're great. And we've been doing this for 4 years now.
Yeah, no, it is great because Tina and I went there one night, and we all should actually do that.
You've been talking about it nonstop.
I know, and we just haven't done it. Before season hits, which is coming up real quick, we should all go there and have a nice dinner and have some fun because when you play, it's like magic to me. Okay, it's like when I watch your fingers run across the piano, it's just like, how does he do that? I mean, it's incredible because you've been playing the piano for over 50 years, right?
Yeah, well, if you want to tell people how old.
Oh. Don't worry, we can bleep that number out.
For over years.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
But so how did you get into playing the piano?
Oh, that's a great question.
Oh, good. I'm glad I asked it.
Yes. As a kid, I hated the piano. In fact, I didn't even know what it was. My mom used to watch a TV show back in the day. Liberace had a TV show called The Liberace Show. It was black and white. At least it was for us. And she asked me, I was running through the house one day. I was a kid. She says, how would you like to play the piano like that man on the TV? I said, what is a piano? And she said, look at this guy. Wait, stop. Look at this man. See what he's doing. Could you do that? And I looked at it and said, yeah, I could do that. Somebody shows me how to do it. That was that. And she wanted me to play the piano because she was watching the Liberace show. I wanted to play the drums because I was watching Little Ricky on I Love Lucy, learning how to play the drums, and I wanted to do that. I don't think I can say what she said to me on the podcast. But essentially, it was, I don't care about that, but there is no way that anybody's going to live in my house and play the drums. So the piano, it turned out to be the piano. So I heard my mom and dad talking about me taking piano lessons. She says, I found a piano teacher for him. And he says, great, Dad, great. This will keep him busy, keep him out of the streets, and keep him busy, keep his mind occupied. And she says, okay, well, we're going to need a piano. And he said, my dad was a businessman. He says, I'm not buying a piano. And she says, well, he's going to need a piano if he's going to take lessons. He says, I'm not buying a piano. He said, pianos are too expensive. He says, if I buy a piano and this guy, if he takes this for about 3 or 4 months and decides he wants to quit, we're going to be stuck with this ugly box sitting at our house. So he says, when he learns how to play the piano, then I'll buy him a piano. And she goes, well, how is he going to learn how to play the piano if he doesn't have one to practice? And he goes, I don't know. He said, this is your idea. You figure it out. And then he walked out of the door because she had to go back to doing business. Well, So my mom, being religious as she was, talked to our minister at the church. And I used to ride my bike over. They made a deal with the pastor and ride my bike over to the church every day. And I'd practice for an hour, and then I'd get on my bike and come back home. Now, it was years later that I found out that my mom used to call the minister every time. When I was riding my bike over, she would call him to let him know I was on my way. And she asked him, call me when he gets there. And call me when he's leaving. So she kept like real close tabs. And she was a great mom, but she kept close tabs.
Was that? Did she do that to make sure you were safe, that you got there and you were leaving, or was it because she wanted to see how long you took piano lessons for?
I think she wanted. I'm going to think she wanted to make sure I was safe, but I'm thinking that she was making sure that I wasn't up to something.
Right, like you didn't go there, you went somewhere else, and you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing.
And we all have done that.
She might have been making a ledger to see how long you were practicing to try to get a piano from
to
your
show
dad.
to your dad to say, this is what he's been doing, so we need to get him a piano.
He's putting in the work.
So to make this story short, after about 2 years, I came home from school one day, walked in the house, bam, and this piano sitting in the house. I went nuts. And I started playing. Oh my God, I went crazy. I got my own piano. I don't have to ride the bike. And I just sat there and played and played and played. My mom took up fishing because you're practicing, so you do the same thing over and over and over, over and over, over and over,
right,
and over and over.
But that's how you got to being as good as you are, because repetition is the key to all skill. The more you do it, the easier it gets.
Yeah.
And when you play the piano, like I said, it's like mesmerizing. There's just something to it. It's so, you have a way to make a piano sound. You could take the biggest piece of crap piano in the world and you can make it sound beautiful.
I play it hard.
But you have a way of doing that, and it's very intimate with the way that you play the piano. It's like you are to me, what a concert artist does, which is you bring the best out of the piano. It's an extension of you.
Well, I found out that the harder you hit it, the harder you play the piano, the better it sounds.
Well, I'm going to tell you a story that my father told me. So many moons ago, my father, before I had even met you, my father told me the story that he had rented you a piano for an event, a concert or whatever. I don't remember what the piano was, but when it came back, you had elongated the balance rail holes, and which is the pivot point for the key to sit on for the key frame. And so for the key, and so my dad had to fix all of them because the key should not be what's called a pulley key. It should be it shouldn't move forward and backwards. Well, you made them move forward and backwards because you played that piano so hard.
So if it moves forward and backwards, that means the key slides.
Exactly.
Slides back and forth.
And the action doesn't play 100% the way it should, and the regulation's going to be thrown off and everything. So,
I also played very hard because I came from rock and roll, and I had a band, and they played loudly.
Right. So you had to try to overpower them so people could hear you.
Yeah.
But you've done a lot of cool things too. Like I know you were on the Johnny Carson show, correct?
I was on the Johnny Carson show in front of. Back then, that was before cable, so 30 million people watched me.
Wow. You were friends with Burt Reynolds. You were good friends with him.
Yeah, at least 40-something years. I met him right after he finished doing. He had just finished doing a movie called Deliverance.
Man.
I really wasn't a movie type of person. I didn't go to a lot of movies, but and he came in. So his brother and some people brought him in to see me. And that was how I met him. And I didn't hear from him for a whole year. He said, do you have a car? I gave him my business card. I was playing at the Abbey Road back then. This is way...
Yep. And people still come to me talking about, Copeland Davis. Yeah, he used to play at Abbey Road. I'm like, yep, that same Copeland.
in Palm Beach Gardens, at the end of Military Trail, which is PGA Boulevard. Of course, Military goes, I don't know where it goes now. So, he came in to see me. He was Burt Reynolds was originally he was going to school to become a professional football player.
Right. Yep.
And he was going to Florida State, and he got hurt playing football at the school, and it ended his professional career as far as playing football. So his favorite football star at that time was a guy named Gale Sayers. And Burt was sitting in the dining room area. I was playing in the lounge area. So he says, well, when we finish dinner over here, we're going to come over and see you in the lounge. He could hear me, but he wanted to come over and see me. So he walks into the room after he finished dinner, and Gale Sayers was in the room.
Oh, really? That's cool.
And they started talking, and Burt says to Gale, he goes, what are you doing here? He says, some people brought me in here to see this kid play the piano. And he says, the Gale says, well, what are you doing here? He says, my family brought me in here to see this kid play the piano. So Gale says, well, maybe you should listen to this guy play the piano. That was an interesting night. We had a lot of celebrities that used to come in to see me, but I was secret, you know.
Right.
You know, we used to have Jack Nicklaus and.
And how old are you at this time?
Why, you still trying to figure out how?
Well, they're saying kids, so I'm just.
I was young. I graduated from FAU. I was in my 20s.
Okay, gotcha.
I think. Yeah, I got married. I got married early.
Yeah.
You know, I married the girl of my dreams, which actually turned out to be. Well, never mind. That didn't last too long.
That's what dreams are for.
Yeah, right.
You wake up in the morning, they're gone.
So I want to tell my story with you for the first time. But I worked for you, but never met you at FAU and at other venues. You know, being a concert artist, and we ran into each other at. One of your neighbors had passed away, and there was a piano that they wanted me to look at. Do you remember this?
Oh, yeah.
So what happened was, I come walking in, and back then I was, like my dad and my uncle, I wore a shirt and tie, and I had this tie that was like a piano tie, right? So I walk in, and you were inside, and you said, I know you. And I said, you do? And you said, yeah. You're Dan Hamilton's nephew, aren't you? And I said, yeah. And you said, I recognize you from the tie because it was the same tie my uncle had.
Yeah.
So, and he goes, I'm Copeland Davis. And I'm like, uh-oh. I'm like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. I've worked for you, but I've never physically met you before.
Yeah, I'm the guy who destroys piano.
Yes. I didn't want to say that. You did. It's fine. So what happened was we met at that time, and I don't remember the situation with that customer's piano because that was like 27 years ago. It was a while ago.
Yeah, that was Joe. We used to call him. Well, my wife and I used to call him Vietnam Joe, but the kids called him, what do they call it? G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe.
Yeah, they called him G.I. Joe. And,
so
he was selling his piano. You bought his piano? Or
I thought he passed away, and someone was trying to sell the piano or see the condition of it, something like that. Yeah. So anyway.
So it was after Joe. But yeah.
So what happened was, not too long after that, you had called me, and you said, hey, can you come tune my piano? And I said, sure, no problem. Of course I'm nervous because I know how heavy-handed you are, like you just admitted to.
Well, I don't play my piano at home. I don't destroy
But
my
I
own
didn't
piano.
know that. So I'm sitting here going, okay, I'm going to tune for Copeland Davis. And I'm kind of new in the business, and I'm sitting here thinking, beat the pieces out of this piano and make sure that tuning is in. And so I come to your home, and you sit there and you said, Toby, I tried tuning my own piano. Do you remember this?
Oh, God, yes.
You said, I tried tuning my own piano, and it took me an hour and a half.
No, it took me 2 days.
To get through one octave. And you said, screw this, I'm going to call Toby.
Oh, yeah.
So you called me, and I come in, and of course I'm still a newbie at that point, and I'm nervous, but I want to make sure that the piano tuning for a concert pianist in his personal home on his personal piano is in great condition. So, I was there for 2 hours. I mean, I beat that piano into pieces. Mary was there, and you guys were so sweet, and I beat the piano, as hard as I can, and I'm like, okay, Copeland, you want to try it? And you said, yep, and you tried, and you said, oh man,
great.
This is great.
Oh, it's great.
This is great. And I'm like, phew, thank God.
Well, you had high expectations for me anyway, because your dad used to tune the pianos for me. Your dad tuned pianos for me for 5, 6, 7 years, maybe 10.
Yeah, but before that, yeah, and my uncle too.
And
I
then
think.
Dan, Dan. I said, "Oh, you related to Mr. Oh, yeah, I'm his brother."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those things that I wanted to make sure that, one, I knew what I was doing, which I did know what I was doing. It was just I wanted to make sure that you were going to be happy, and I wanted to make sure that by the time you hit that first note, it didn't go out of tune, you know, because you play with so much passion.
Yeah, passion is a nice word.
Exactly.
That's a good word.
And enthusiasm. You know that
I play it hard.
I'm playing it the nice way. But basically, you do that, and it's kind of scary for a piano technician because a lot of artists do that, and we have to, when I stay for a concert, I have to do a standby. I have to go out on stage during intermission and do touch-ups. And I've had some artists that play as well as you that I'm sitting there like, oh man, and then I'll hear a note go out. I mean, it's just the way that it is. It's an imperfect instrument. We're imperfect humans. Nothing is perfect. So, but I was so nervous coming to your home. I was. I'm glad I could admit it 27 years later. But I was nervous, but you actually helped me overcome the nervousness I was having with other concert artists because I started thinking, you know what? If Copeland likes me, I don't care what anybody else thinks. Seriously,
That's a good litmus test.
Most people don't play the piano as hard as I do. I think Elton John does. I think Billy Joel probably plays as hard as I do.
Yes, Bill, as he likes to be called.
Right.
He does play it hard, and but you have so much strength in your fingers, and you playing hard is not. There's different songs that call for different ways. Pianissimo, fortissimo, hard blows, soft blows.
Yeah.
It's the way that it is. Yeah. But you also have that magical touch that when you play soft, you draw the voice out of the piano. Yeah. And as a concert technician, it's our job to try to get that out of the piano. Some pianos we can, some pianos we can't.
Yeah, I've played on most of the pianos that can't. Most of my career, I played on the pianos that don't. We ain't doing that.
Right. But growing up in your career and what you have done, like with Abbey Road, and like I said, these customers still to this day say, Copeland, because we talk about you all the time. Mike, when they're on the road, they say, hey, you should watch Copeland on YouTube. I tell people all the time, I said, listen, watch him on YouTube. He can play 2 songs at the same time, one with the left hand, one with the right. Not everybody can do that.
I can't do it every night either.
I told the owner at Cafe Centro about that. She goes, "What? He's never done that yet."
They haven't been paying attention.
I got a question as it relates to beating on pianos when you're performing versus your piano at home. How do you regulate that?
My piano?
So, yeah, when you're practicing what you're going to perform, but you're at home practicing, but you don't want to beat on your piano you're going to beat on a piano out in the venue.
Okay, I don't.
This is why he's had to buy 3 pianos.
Yeah, I bought a few pianos. Because the first piano that my dad bought me was a cable upright.
Oh,
man. Said, oh, my God. I said to him, I can't wait till you buy me $1,000. He goes, I'm not buying you another one.
Well, he wasn't going to buy you a first one either, so.
I bought 3 pianos from you.
Yeah, you're on your 3rd one with us. Yep. Pretty soon, I have a feeling it's going to be 4.
Yeah, it probably will be.
So, do you reserve yourself on your home piano versus when you're out?
Well, that's another good question. When I'm practicing at home, it tends to be more technical for me. When I'm playing with the band or when I'm performing, it becomes more spontaneous, and it becomes very improv, and everything is emotion based, and I just kind of react to what the band is doing, and I react to what they're doing, and they react to what I'm doing, and that's when the passion comes out. But when I'm at home practicing technical, I'm thinking about what I'm doing. And of course, I don't want to have to pay for the piano tuning myself.
Yeah, because you don't want to tune one octave for 2 days and then say, screw this, I'm going to have someone else come out.
Now generally, in my heyday, I used to have my piano tuned at home once a month. And when I was in Vegas, when I lived in Las Vegas, of course, eventually I got to meet Liberace. I got to be good friends with Liberace.
How was he? Is he a nice? Was
Oh,
he a
he's
nice
a great guy. Oh, he's a real nice
fantastic
man.
pianist. I mean, he really was.
Yeah, he's a great pianist.
I actually have his in my desk. I have his handkerchiefs.
Yeah.
Quick story. My grandfather worked for him up in Connecticut,
Yes.
and my father would work for him down here when he had the different circuits, the winter circuit and summer circuit. So when he would play down here, he would have his handkerchief with his initials embroidered on it, and he'd wipe the sweat off his face, and then set it on the piano. Well, after the concert, they were just sitting there, so my dad would take them. So I got
He took them?
yeah. So I have like 3 or 4 of his handkerchiefs,
that's cool.
with his DNA. we can clone another Liberace.
Doesn't sound serial killer creepy at all. No.
Well, it was amazing that I had met him. Well, I actually saw him first, and then I met him later. Mm-hmm. But Mary and I had just moved to Vegas. We were working at the Stardust. We had signed a contract, 18 months at the Stardust Hotel, working for Frank Rosenthal. That's a whole nother story. Okay, that has to do with the movie Casino. But we found a place to eat one night. It was a Chinese restaurant called the Great Wall in Las Vegas. And yeah, we got off of work at around 4 o'clock in the morning. We were driving home, and we were coming up to this traffic light, and there was this white station wagon in the right-hand lane, and it had piano keys painted around the whole car. And I said, "Oh, Mary, let's get up next to this guy. And this car with the piano keys painted on. This has got to be a piano tuner, right? Let's just pull up next to him and ask him how much does he charge to tune piano." And we pulled up next to him, and we honked the horn, rolled down the window, and he rolled out. It was Liberace. It's Liberace.
That's cool.
And he goes, "Hi." I said, "Oh, I think that's Liberace." I said, "How much do you charge to tune a piano?" I said, "How much do you charge to tune a piano?" He goes, "I don't tune pianos. I detune them."
Me too.
And then he drove off when the light turned green. And that was when we first got to Vegas. And later on, I got a telegram from him at the Stardust Hotel. He had heard about me playing at the Stardust and wanted to meet me. And he says, "Unfortunately, my schedule doesn't allow me to come to the lounge to see you. I want you to come see me." So I went to see his show and got invited backstage. And we sat and talked for maybe 3 or 4 hours.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, what was that conversation like?
Well, I was surprised because I shouldn't say this, but no, because he had he was clean cut. He had a clean cut image, and he was a chain smoker. He smoked cigarettes. He was smoking his mask. I don't know if I can stay back here in this dress. It's so foggy up in here. But and I saw his clothes, his costumes close up, and they were handmade. Mm-hmm. And handmade clothes don't look as good as you think they do. when you're like right on top of them. Oh yeah, this is definitely handmade.
Right.
But when you see it on the stage, it has a whole different dimension.
When you're 5 rows back,
Yeah.
no one's going to know the difference.
Yeah. But nice man.
And you had a question for Copeland.
I do. I've got a couple. We got a chance to see you with the Symphonic Band of the Palm Beaches at Palm Beach State College. There was a performance of Rhapsody in Blue, which is my probably all-time favorite piece of music. And it was a really different version of it. And so I was just curious as to how that goes down. And did you write that arrangement? No. And how does that work out?
No, I did not write that arrangement, and I generally write my own arrangements, always. I was out of songs. and Mark, first of all, when people work with me, I tend to make them very, very nervous.
Understandably.
Because
But they shouldn't be, because you're such a humble guy.
well, yeah, that's not what makes them nervous. Is
Okay.
that they think I'm not going to finish the music, or I'm not going to deliver it on time. And they think,
You're a real artist.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
true
you know,
definition of an artist.
there's another arranger friend of mine who does the same thing, and I can't say his name because he's local. But he's a marvelous arranger and producer as well. But so Mark was afraid that the band was going to have time to learn this new arrangement that I was working on. So he says, let's do this version of Rhapsody in Blue. I said, okay. So let me listen to it. Because I have actually performed the legitimate version of Rhapsody in Blue. And this was quite different. This was a takeoff on the Diodato version.
was wild.
Yeah. It was more of a horn arrangement than it was for piano. But,
Sure.
Yeah.
But it was okay. It was fine. I'll be prepared next time.
Well, you've written scores for orchestras for.
I've written for everybody. I have done arrangements. Well, I used to be music director for Barbara McNair, who nobody remembers, but at one time she was considered one of the 10 most beautiful women in the world, and I was on tour with her. I was traveling with her as her musical director. Oh my God, this was.
You're like hubba.
Oh my God. So I said to Mary.
I hope my wife don't find out.
I said to Mary, now I'm going on the road. I'm going to be gone 6 months. She goes, yeah. I said, are you okay with this? She goes, yeah. Why wouldn't I be? I said, well, because she's like one of the 10 most beautiful women in the world. She goes, well, I hadn't thought about that until you mentioned it.
You're now staying home.
But I've done arrangements for her. I've done arrangements for Florence Henderson.
Nice.
I've done arrangements for Gerald Austin from the Manhattans and the Temptations. I've done work with the Temptations.
Speaking of film scores, what's your favorite film score?
Oh my God, almost anything that Henry Mancini did.
Oh, okay.
But only because I knew him and we had lunch.
So you're
and
biased.
Yes. But I love John Williams.
I was going to mention John Williams.
I love John Williams. Probably my all-time favorite is Michel Legrand.
Okay.
And oh God, he writes wonderful stuff. I never met Michel, but yeah. Speaking of making movies, I did a few movies with Burt.
Oh yeah.
Oh, did
And,
you?
yeah, and it's quite different filming a movie than before I did it. I thought it would be very similar to recording in a recording studio where you play the song over and over and over and over and over until you want to kill yourself. But but making movies is different because you only do just a little section at a time, over and over and over and over until you want to kill yourself.
It's a different kind of
What movie were you in?
Well, he had a TV series. It was called BL Striker.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I remember
It was a 2-hour movie series thing, and the first time, the first movie he did was with the producer, but the director was a guy named Bill Fraker, and Bill Fraker was incredible. Bill Fraker was from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He was director of photography, and he worked with Spielberg, and he brought these Steven Spielberg ideas to making the movie with Burt. Burt said, "Okay, we've done this enough. Let's move on." Burt was all about fun.
Now I have a question for Copeland.
Me?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So how long did it take you to get into have a Vegas show? I mean, from just out of
Okay.
curiosity.
When I went to Vegas, I did not have a show.
Oh no.
And it was kind of interesting because I was playing opposite a young man by the name of Henry Shedband. He played piano, and he was more of an R&B performer who played the piano, and of course they brought me in as pianist, and Henry thought that I was there to replace him, and that wasn't why I was there. we were brought there to enhance. So he'd do 1 hour, I'd do an hour, then he'd do another hour. So the whole night was like 6 hours long, 6 nights a week. 6 nights a week. So he had this Vegas thing down. I didn't have it down. I just, play what I play and do what I do. And everyone in where I played before, like Palm Beach, and where my career was appreciated what I did. People would get up and walk out on my show. And we'd start with a packed room because Henry left the room packed, and we'd come in, and by the time we were done, there was like 2 or 3 people sitting up in there. And I'm going, okay, this is not good, because if this continues, I'm going to get fired. And I just talked my whole band and all of the families, and we just moved lock, stock, and barrel out to Las Vegas. And we had this guy come in who saw me, and he looked awfully familiar. I don't know why. It took me years before I figured out why I knew him. But he says, I got a guy I want to bring in and let him check you out. He can put your show together. And actually, I ended up working with him, a guy named Charlie Atkins from Motown Records. Oh, wow. And luckily, coincidentally, I had met Charlie Atkins like 10 years before that. I was a teenager back in Orlando, working in a house band, and I met this Charlie Atkins, and he was putting a show together, and that's what he does. He puts shows together for these entertainers. And he put my show together once he remembered who I was.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. But he introduced me to some incredible people. He introduced me to the Temptations. He introduced me to, he was from Motown. He introduced me to Gladys Knight and the Pips.
Oh my gosh. Motown is my favorite. They are.
So what's your favorite Vegas story?
Meeting Liberace in a station wagon.
Liberace was fine. God, I met so many stars. What's my favorite? I don't know. Finding out who Frank Rosenthal was. I guess my favorite Vegas story was, I went out to Vegas to become a star, I guess. And I drove up. I had this customized Cadillac Seville back then, and I had the only one in the country at the time. And I got out of the car, like I always did. It was wintertime, and I had on this black fur coat. And
with your disco ball shoes?
Yeah. I made a dramatic exit out of the car to go into the Star. I did this every night. And I went inside, and this guy stopped me. He said, excuse me, this one night. He says, can I talk to you? I said, yeah. He said, what kind of car is that? I said, that's Cadillac Seville. He goes, I've never seen one like that. I said, well, it has this customized paint. Listen, I'm producing a movie, and I'd like to use that car.
Oh, wow.
I said, well, you should come in and see my show.
Come and look at me.
So the car became a bigger star than I did. But they used the car in a movie called The Electric Horseman, and Robert Redford drove the car. And I kept that, because Robert Redford drove my car, I kept that car until it was a piece of crap.
You should have had him sign his autograph on it.
So Copeland, not really a question, but more of, I just want to say, a couple years ago, you came here to demo on a C7. Remember, we filmed him to play the quality for the C7. I just want to say that watching you play, that was the only time I've ever seen you play.
Yeah.
And watching you do one thing on the piano there has actually inspired my piano playing interest now, honestly. So I just want to say, thank you for inspiring, because you've inspired me, and I can only imagine how many other people you've inspired to play.
Well, thank you. I can relate to that because I can remember the people who inspired me.
Liberace.
Liberace was one, Ahmed Jamal. Thank you.
Copeland, it's been such an honor having you here on our podcast. We really truly appreciate it. But I got to ask you, would you mind playing a little something on one of our pianos for us? I really appreciate it.
I'd love to do that. I'd love to do that.
Copeland, that was incredible, brother. Thank you so much for doing that. Your technical skills on a piano are second to none. They really are. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening, everybody. If you want to check out some of our video of Copeland Davis playing that Grotrian that we have right here in our showroom, feel free to check us out on Instagram at Hamilton Piano Co. or on Facebook and LinkedIn at Hamilton Piano Company. Remember, keep your piano happy, keep your piano healthy, have it tuned regularly. Thank you and have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Thanks, Cope.
My ears are sweating.
That was fun. Your company is conscientious. I mean, your father was conscientious, and your father was actually part of my contracts when I signed with these different places.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, yes, and
Then you were.
yeah.
I wasn't on a contract.
I requested your father once a week wherever I played, once a week, and
wow.
it had to be him. Well, what about the piano? No. I only want one piano tune. It was your father, and then after that it was Dan.
Right.
And Dan was in my contracts too. You have to call Dan Hamilton. And actually, even though you didn't know it, you were in my contracts
Oh
too.
man, you made me feel so good right now.
His head doesn't need to be bigger.
No, it
No,
goes,
it does. There's plenty of room.
it goes beyond what kind of piano do I want. I want so and so and so and so. But if I'm going to play this piano, then this is who I want to tune the piano. That's part of the deal.